Yo, what's the deal, everybody? My name is Jarrell. Welcome to Baseline Banter. This is a podcast where I'm going to talk to y'all about my thoughts and feelings on the WNBA, and I'm going to try to put y'all on game. So, a little bit about me. Y'all heard me say what's the deal, so y'all should already know. I'm originally from the greatest city in the world, Detroit, Michigan, and I currently reside in Atlanta. I've been watching the W for about 3 years now, so I've been around for a little bit, but I can honestly say at this point, I actually prefer the WNBA over the NBA, which is kind of crazy. Favorite player right now, Asia Wilson. Favorite. But all time, the real CP3, Candace Parker, one of the greatest to ever lace up a pair of basketball shoes. But my very first favorite WNBA player, and honestly probably my first celebrity crush for real, was Skylar Diggins-Smith back in 2013 when she was playing with the Tulsa Shock, who originally used to be the Detroit Shock, one of the greatest teams ever, and who are now the Dallas Wings. So I've been around the league for just a little bit. But with this being the first episode, it's time to take y'all to school, man. I'm gonna tell y'all a little bit about the history of the league, the way things are run now, and I'm gonna talk to y'all about the teams that are in the league and what to expect for the rest of this season. So taking this all the way back, in 1997, David Stern and a few of his partners decided that high school, college, and the Olympics were not enough to showcase how great women's basketball is and was. So they decided to start the Women's National Basketball Association. So with team play starting officially in 1997, there were 8 teams originally, and of those 8 teams, one team stood out more than the rest, with their MVP being Cynthia Cooper, who along with Tina Thompson, Cheryl Swoops, and the late great Kim Pariah were part of the Houston Comets, who not only were the very first WNBA champions, but the only team in the history of the NBA or the WNBA to four-peat, winning 4 chips in a row. Hasn't been done before, and honestly, I don't see it happening ever again. The current commissioner is Kathy Engelbert. Last year's season was interesting. Breanna Stewart of the New York Liberty won the MVP. I like Breanna Stewart, but I still think it should have went to Asia Wilson personally. With that being said, y'all know who won the chip though? Yeah, the Aces. They won the chip. So clearly, y'all made a mistake. Y'all made a huge mistake. So let's talk about the regular season. So originally, starting out wasn't that many games. Not at all. Probably only about 10 to 12, sometimes 16, sometimes 20. But now we've gotten to a point where it's a consistent 40 games in a regular season. And this year is a little special because of the Olympics. Now, when the WNBA does coincide with the Olympics, what they decide to do is they get a 1-month break for the WNBA season. And for the All-Star game, what they do is they have Team WNBA versus Team USA. And funny enough, the last 2 times they did this, Team WNBA came out with the win, which shows to show just how tough this league is. And another thing that I forgot to mention about the league being tough is that there are currently 12 teams in the league with 12 players. Those 12 teams will extend to 14 by 2026, which means there are only 144 players total in the WNBA, which will increase to 168 by 2026, which shows to show just how tough it is to not only get in the league, but stay in the league. And let's talk about this Commissioner's Cup. So y'all know the NBA has their own in-season tournament, but the W actually did it first. It's, a very good way to make sure that players are acting like the regular season counts. So the way that this works is each team gets 10 cup games within their first half of the season, and they continue to play, and they go towards their cup records. 2 teams with the most wins from each conference then go on to play in the final game, and let's look at this number. The winning team gets $30,000 each, with the MVP getting an additional $5,000, and the losing team gets $10,000 each. Now this year, the Minnesota Lynx won the Commissioner's Cup, with Nafisa Collier taking home that MVP and defeated the New York Liberty. And it was a very special game. And now, let's talk about the playoffs. So the playoffs, they started in 2020 with a new format here. As you can see, it's just like pretty much the NBA and other basketball teams and rock leagues, but As you can see, the first round is a best of three. So you win 2 games, you win the series. And then the second round and finals, it's a best of 5 each. So you win 3 here, you go on to the finals, and you win 3 there, and you are the WNBA champions. So now let's talk about some teams, man. And I'm going to tell y'all how they played last season, who the key players are on the team, and a burning question that I had at the beginning of the season. Has my question been answered? And another question for the second half of the season. So starting off in the Eastern Conference, we have the Atlanta Dream. Ooh, the Atlanta Dream, man. So they have an outstanding roster, I might say. They have Ryan Howard, who was the first round pick in 2022, Alicia Gray, Haley Jones, Cheyenne Parker Tyrus. They just added Tina Charles, but they also have Ariel Powers, Jordan Canada, Nas Hillman, and Nia Coffey coming off the bench. Last year they had a 19-21 record, which was good enough for the 5th seed in the league, and they lost in the first round 2-0 to the Dallas Wings. And the question I had is Tanisha Wright the right coach for this team? Let me tell you. No. I'm actually sick and tired of watching this team, bro, because let me tell you, they are statistically, individually, all having great success. So the question is, why is that not translating to team success? I'm telling y'all the answer is Tanisha Wright. With the roster I just named, there is no reason why this team is 9th in the WNBA with a record of 7-17. Her rotations are only as bad as Monty Williams when he was coaching the Pistons. And if anybody can say that, it's me. So I'm tired, man. I really am. Besides the fact that her rotations are bad, she does not like playing Letitia Emma here. And I don't know why. Because if you had a 6'3 center coming off the bench, when you have only 3 bigs on your roster overall, I think that would be grounds for somebody to say, hey, she should be getting more minutes. And when she does play, she's very solid. The last game she played, she pulled down 8 rebounds. So I'm not understanding why she isn't getting playing time. So now, my follow-up question is, will they make the right decision and fire Tanisha Wright? That's my question. And Atlanta, I hope you do. I really hope that you take this to heart and you listen to me. And granted, I don't want nobody to lose their job. But again, I had to watch Monty Williams coach my Detroit Pistons. So I understand, bro. Tanisha, I'm sorry, but you gotta go. But moving on, before I really get mad, let's talk about the Chicago Sky. Now, Chicago, they roster on paper looks great. They have Dana Evans. They had Marina Mabry, but they just traded her to Connecticut for reasons I don't understand. I'll come back to that later. But Diamond DeShields as well. Of course, they just drafted Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso. Elizabeth Williams. They also have Kendi Carter. They had Kaiser Gondrezick, but they cut her. Izzy Harrison and Breezy Turner. Coaching is Teresa Witherspoon, and last season they had a record of 18-22, which was good for the 8th seed, and they lost in the first round, of course, to the eventual champions, the Las Vegas Aces. My burning question at the beginning of the season was, what impact will Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso have on this team? And let's just say, they should be better. They are currently the 8th seed now with a record of 10-14, and they should be better. I think Teresa Witherspoon has done an amazing job as a coach this year. I also believe that Angel Reese, she's having a breakout rookie season. Camila Cardoso's been playing solid as well. My problem is the fact that they have made some very questionable moves. It's 2 moves specifically that really bothered me. The first one was during the offseason when they decided to trade Kalia Copper, their franchise player, their best player, to Phoenix for her career to die. I don't like that because I hate Phoenix. So I don't know why y'all did that. But the other thing is y'all traded Marina Mabry, which let me paint this scene for y'all. Chicago cannot shoot the ball. Marina Mabry was the only 3-point shooter they had, and they traded her for Mariah Jefferson, who has barely played and pretty much has played the same amount of games as Kawhi Leonard at this point. So I don't get that. However, what I do want to talk about for a positive, yes, I talk about Angel and Camila's impact, but Kennedy Carter, man. Um, Kennedy Carter is dude, dude. When I say that girl is raw, that girl is raw, bro. She was cold like that in Atlanta. She was cold like that in LA, even though she didn't really get that time. Of course, she had the controversy surrounding her time with the Dream, and people were talking about her attitude when she was in LA last year. But let me tell y'all something, man. If you can ball, bro, you can do whatever you want to do. She talked choppy and she played choppy, and I love that, man. Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird literally said a few years ago that eventually she was going to become one of the most unstoppable players in the league, and to this point, oh, she is. So I'm very excited to see what they're going to do with the rest of the season, which brings me to my question. Will they turn it around? And I believe that they will, man. I think that they have the potential to be maybe top 6 in the standings. I remember that they were actually ranked dead last in the power ranks before the season started, and I knew that was crazy, and they're starting to show it. So when they come back from the Olympics, I think that Chicago is going to be a much better team. Next up, we have the Connecticut Sun, and let me tell you, I hate this team for a lot of reasons. But they have Dejanay Carrington, who has been playing very, very well this season. Tayasha Harris, DeWanna Bonner, Alyssa Thomas, Brianna Jones. They also have Queen Egbo, Tiffany Mitchell, Olivia Nelson-Ododa, and again, like I said, they just added Marina Mabrey to a team that already was unstoppable because DeWanna Bonner and Alyssa Thomas, just them two alone, is a championship team. It doesn't matter who else is on the roster. Those two will win you a championship. Now, last season, they were the 3rd seed going 27-13, and they lost 3-1 in the semifinals to the New York Liberty, which I still think to this day is a fluke. I will say that. And the burning question, is this a revenge tour? Let me tell y'all something about Connecticut. Connecticut currently has a record of 18-6, good enough for 2nd seed in the entire league. Only behind, of course, the Liberty. Now, like I said, this team was already good enough. Mariah Jefferson wasn't really playing, so they missed out on everything that she could do in terms of facilitating and shooting the ball. So what did they go do? They added Marina Mabrey to this team. So when I tell you, this team right here, it's cooked. Now, let me say this. I don't think it's a revenge tour per se because I don't think they're making the finals because I think that this finals matchup, we might have a repeat match. So I don't see it. But my question for the second half of the season is, can they keep this momentum? Because there have been games where Alyssa Thomas forgot how to play basketball. There are days where DeWanna Bonner just does not shoot the ball. And Dejanay Carrington, I love you, but you sold my parlay multiple times because it's days where you play like trash. So I put you on a parlay to go under, and then you start remembering how to play basketball, and I don't appreciate that. But you keep up the good work, okay? You keep up the good work. Now, next we have the Indiana Fever. Let me tell you something about the Fever, man. Wow. So, before I say anything else, my burning question is, will they meet expectations? And originally, I said absolutely not. Because it does not matter if you put Caitlin Clark on this team or LeBron James. They are not going to do anything. However, I'm pleasantly surprised. They currently have a record of 11-15. Of course, led by Caitlin Clark. They have Melissa Smith going crazy. Aaliyah Boston is showing again in year 2 that she was rightfully that number 1 pick. Kelsey Mitchell, Erica Wheeler, Lexi Ho is playing well. And again, compared to last season, they were the worst team in the league. They actually almost were the worst team in the league. Had a record of 9-31. They didn't qualify for the playoffs, of course. And as it stands now, they're the 7th seed. So my question is, what's next? Will they continue? Will Caitlin Clark continue to break records? I still think personally that my rookie of the year is going to be Angel Reese. But Caitlin Clark has been playing solid. Of course, she turns the ball over a lot. But through 26 games as a rookie, she already has 75% more assists than WNBA history. That makes no sense to me. For her in rookie year 1, to have more assists than 75% of the entire history of the WNBA, that's unprecedented. So I think that she's going to continue to play amazing. Aaliyah Boston is going to continue to step up. And Alyssa Smith is going to play great. Of course, she has Dejanay Carrington by her side. So I think they're going to continue to be great. And I'm very excited to see what they do with the rest of this WNBA season. And now, the New York Liberty. You know, I've never wanted to dislike a team that I can't dislike so much. Because I really, really want to hate the Liberty, but I can't, man. I mean, do y'all see the starting five, man? We have Sabrina Ionescu, Courtney Vandersloot, Naja Laney, Breanna Stewart, and Jonquel Jones. And they have Kayla Thornton coming off the bench, as well as Nayara Sadley. Sandy Bardello is the coach. Last year, man, they were so good. I can't make this up. They were 32-8 for the second seed, and they got swept in the finals by Las Vegas Aces. My question is, how would they respond to last year's embarrassing end? And ladies and gentlemen, they decided that in order to combat the fact that they got swept in the finals and walked out with the tail in between their legs and just in shame, by starting out going 21-4 into the All-Star / Olympic break. This team has only lost 4 games. 4. Breanna Stewart has been hooping, of course. Sabrina, you know what Sabrina's going to do. And funny enough, I actually used to think Sabrina was cooked. But she proved me wrong and became one of my favorite players, man. And Jonquel, I used to really like Jonquel, but now she be playing dirty, and I don't like that, man. Wow, this is stacked, and I really think that personally, there's not a single team in the league that can stop them that is not named the Las Vegas Aces. We're gonna come back to that. But let's go to the Washington Mystics. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I have not watched a single Washington Mystics game since 2021. I have no reason to watch a Washington Mystics game in 2024. There is no reason for the Washington Mystics to exist as a franchise. There's no reason for the Washington Mystics. Let's look at this roster at the moment. They have Ariel Atkins, Brittany Sykes, Carly Samuelson, Stephanie Dolson, and Shakira Austin as a starting 5. And off the bench, you have Maisha Hines-Allen, Dee Richards, and Shatori Walker-Kimbrough. Coach is brand new Eric Tibble. Last season, they had a record of 19-21, which was good enough for the 7th seed, and they got swept in the first round by the Liberty. My question is, how will losing Natasha Cloud and Elena Delle Donne affect the team? And oh my God. I thought it would be bad, but not this bad. The Mystics have a record at the moment of 6-19, which is tied for the worst record in the WNBA. This team, granted, on paper it don't look that great, but when you bring in the fact that Brittany Sykes has been injured, they lost Natasha Cloud to Phoenix, and Elena Delle Donne said, I'm not going to be here like Magic Johnson. I think it's time to sell the team. I'm sorry that this team is sorry. I'm sorry that this is the equivalent of the Detroit Pistons for you. I want better for you. I want better for the entire city of Washington, D.C., the state capital. Y'all have not had good basketball in a while. And granted, yeah, I'm from Detroit, so I can't really say too much, but hey, this isn't a clear-cut example of just bad hoops. But anyway, let's move on to the Western Conference, right? Where it's really at, where it's really popping. And let's start this off with the Dallas Wings. Whew. Lord Jesus. I thought Dallas was going to be great this year. Look at this roster. I mean, Arika Ngubawale, who was just the all-star MVP. Of course, you have Jaylen Brown, fresh out of college. Emma Cannon. You have Maddie Siegrist, Kalani Brown, Satu Sabali, Natasha Howard, and Tierra McCalvin. This team last year was the 4th seed with a record of 19-21. And of course, they got swept by the Aces. Of course, they were going to get swept by the Aces. My burning question was, can they keep up their momentum? And let me say this. It's not their fault, man. It's not their fault. They currently also are tied with the Mystics for a 6-19 record. But let me tell y'all why. You see, because the difference between them and the Mystics actually suck. Okay? The problem here is their best players have been injured. Because, of course, Rike has been going off like we said. But Odyssey Sims, Odyssey Sims was playing great, but she's been hurt. Maddie Segrist, she's been hurt. Natasha Howard, she's been hurt. And they're only relying on Enrique, Monique Billings, and Tierra McCowan. That's not going to win you any basketball. Besides the fact that Satu Sabali, who, oh my God, I think that Satu Sabali was going to be the best player on the team this year, despite how great Enrique has been. I think she was going to step out as the best player on the team. And she ain't played all season. So, of course, this team was going to be bad. So, when their players come back healthy, what are we going to see? And I think that the momentum that they started to build last year is going to continue into this upcoming new half of the season. I think that this team, granted, yes, they lost to the Aces and got swept, but they were building something great in the city of Dallas. And I want to just say that I'm going to come back to this in another episode, but the reason being is that once Liz Cambage is off of your roster, you just prosper. Ooh, that rhymed. But next, come on, y'all. Can we just, I'm not even going to say anything yet, but can we just look at this logo? This logo tells the entire story, ladies and gentlemen. This team, this roster, this dynasty, this is one of the greatest things we've ever seen in the history of basketball. And it will never be replicated. Now, granted, they're not the Houston Comets. But granted, you remember when I said that I don't think any team will ever come close to four-peating? I think the Aces might do it, man. Because look at this roster. Look, just take a look at this roster, man. We have one of the greatest starting fives ever in Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum, Asia Wilson, and Kia Stokes. And of course, off the bench, they have Sydney Colson, Alicia Clark, Megan Gustafson. Becky Hammond is the coach. Dude, y'all saw what he did in San Antonio. They just added Tiffany Mitchell out of retirement. They convinced Tiffany Mitchell to unretire. And look at them. They went 34-6 last year for the first seed and repeated. So my burning question is, not can they three-peat, will they repeat? And I say yes. Here's why. Because as it stands now, the Aces currently are the 5th seed with a 16-8 record. You're like, Jarrell, how is a 16-8 team going to win the title? Let me remind y'all of something here. This team not only lost Candace Parker to retirement. Now, granted, Candace didn't really play last year, but that veteran leadership that she brought to the team cannot be matched. But they also were without Chelsea Gray for the first half of the season. And ever since then, they've been on a roll. They've won 8-2 in their last 10 games. They also have Kate Martin, Kate Martin is a sniper. Kate Martin is currently shooting 40% from 3. And if they have that on top of the pieces that they already have, you're going to tell me that this team isn't going to repeat? That's called delusional, ladies and gentlemen. That is what we call delusion. But next, the Sparks. This team has played better than I thought it was going to play. And again, this goes back to once you lose Liz Cambage off your roster, the team continues to prosper. Same thing with the Aces. They have Kia Nurse, Lexi Brown, Laisha Clarendon, Cameron Brink, Dearica Hamby. And let me say this. Had it not been for her injury, I think that Cameron Brink in the second half of the season would have erupted and potentially won Rookie of the Year. But they also have Rakia Jackson from Detroit, I might add, who was playing exceptionally well. Because, that's just the effect of Detroit, man. But they had Monique Billings, but traded her. Ari McDonald, Azurate Stevens. The coach is Kurt Miller, who was formerly of the Connecticut Sun. And my question was, will the Sparks be better with all of the drama off of their plate? Because granted, they had to deal with the whole Derek Fisher thing, and then they had Kennedy Carter, who they said had an attitude problem, but the main problem was Liz Cambage. Last year, they went 17-23, didn't qualify for the playoffs because they were the 9th seed, and currently they have a record of 6-18. And you want to know what's crazy? That record does not tell the entire story of this team. Because let's be honest, Dearica Hamby, had the team not been bad, she had a very, very, very solid case of winning the MVP. Now, granted, again, she's not, because for one, the Sparks suck record-wise, and second, she ain't Asia Wilson, but a very, very solid case. But enough about them. Let's talk about the Minnesota Lynx. And honestly, had the Aces not existed, this would be my favorite team in the WNBA. I'm being so honest. Because let's just look at this. They have a roster that consists of Courtney Williams, Kayla McBride, Diamond Miller, Nafisa Collier, and Alana Smith with Natisha Heidemann and Alyssa Pilley coming off the bench. This is the most complete team in the WNBA by far. Cheryl Reeve has done an amazing job coaching this team. I thought that there wasn't going to be much for them to really ink their teeth into because, they lost Sylvia Fowles a couple of years ago and then they just kind of teetered with mediocrity because, again, last season they had a record of 19-21. They were the 6th seed and they lost 2-1 in the first round to the Sun. But let me tell you something about Minnesota. Not only did they just win the Commissioner's Cup, beating the Liberty, who are the number 1 seed at this point. Not only do they have a record of 17-8 right now, which is good for 3rd in the entire league, not only do they have the best defense in the league, not only are they the best complete team, but Nafisa Collier, she legitimately is one of the best players in the league. She has put her stamp on it. She is, without a doubt, one of the top 3 best players in the WNBA right now. And granted, I'm going to say the same thing that I said about the Liberty. There is not a single team in this conference that can beat the Minnesota Lynx that is not named the Las Vegas Aces. So while I think we are going to have a banger of a conference finals matchup between the Aces and the Lynx, it's going to go to 5, but Aces in 5, man. But y'all knew that. Next up, we have the Phoenix Mercury. I really hate the city of Phoenix when it comes to basketball, whether it be the Mercury or the Suns or high school or little kid teams. I hate Phoenix so much because they always sell me. Every time I believe in them, they've let me down. But look at this team, man. Rebecca Allen. Okay. Kalia Copper. Chicago. I want smoke. Because y'all really sent her here for her career to die, and I don't appreciate that. Natasha Cloud, granted, she was playing for the Washington Mystics, so I understand why she left. Granted, yeah, it's Phoenix, but look, would you rather be a member of the Phoenix Mercury or the Washington Mystics? Diana Taurasi, a.k.a. Diana Seward, who at this point I think should retire, and Brittany Griner is back. I love that. They have Sophie Cunningham off the bench. Y'all see, they only have 1 key bench player. Y'all see the problem, right? Their coach is Nate Tibbetts. Last year, they were at 9-31, and they didn't qualify for the playoffs because they were the worst team in basketball. And my burning question was, is it finally time to say goodbye to Diana Seward? Yes. Diana, you're still playing well, but you're like 77 years old, my baby. I'm gonna need you to just sit down. You should have retired with Sue, man. They have a record of 13-12, so they're mid. They have nothing going for them. They're not great. They're not terrible. But look at this. What can be done with this team? Please, anybody, please let me know what can be done with this team, with this roster. I will apologize to them if y'all can give me anything, because I can't even come up with a burning question for this. What do they do? That's my burning question. What do they do? Not even what do they do next. What do they do? What do they do now? What did they do in the past? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I don't get it. What is this roster? I don't understand, man. Like, maybe somebody can help me understand, because I don't understand this. But anyway, enough about this team, bro, because I'm getting sick and tired. But last but not least, we have the Seattle Storm. And this team is pretty good, but I feel like we're going to reach Kyrie, Harden, and KD levels of playoff success with this. Because look at this. We have Victoria Vivian's here. We have Ezra Weber, of course, Nico Mulder, who they just drafted, Mercedes Russell, Sammy Wickham. But I don't want to talk about them. I want to talk about these three right here. You have Joel Lloyd, Skylar Diggins-Smith, and Yeka Ongwumike. This big three has so much potential, but I just don't see any true playoff success coming from this. Because look, last season they went 11-29. They were 11th seed, didn't qualify for the playoffs. So my burning question was, will this new big three produce results? Now, granted, let me say this: last season, it was pretty much no fault of their own. They had just lost Sue Bird to retirement, and Joy Lloyd was on an island by herself. Now, granted, I think the biggest mistake that they made was not re-signing Gabby Williams to this team, because I really think that would have been a huge addition, because she can play both sides of the ball very, very well. So let me say this: Skylar Diggins-Smith, of course, she used to be my favorite player of Phoenix. That whole Phoenix fiasco, I'm just glad that she got out of it, but she's been playing okay. Yeka, coming from the Sparks, has been an outstanding partner with Joel Lloyd. They're currently 17-8, which is tied for the third seed with the Aces. But I don't know, man. About in the grand scheme of things, who can this team actually beat? Because when the Western Conference, they're definitely not beating Minnesota, and they for good and sure ain't beating the Aces. The only teams that they actually have a shot against are the teams that aren't going to qualify for the playoffs. And then in the Eastern side, they have to face up against Connecticut. They have to face up against New York. I mean, Indiana, they'd probably beat. I would hope they beat the Fever. But outside of that, like I said, man, there's a lot of potential for success, but I think that is going to come down to playoff failure. Because granted, this is a playoff team, but I don't think they're going to go far, because again, who realistically do they have a chance at beating? I don't see it. I really don't see it, man. But with that being said, that is going to bring us to the end of this episode. Thank y'all for listening. I hope that y'all learned something, and I hope y'all continue to tap in not only with me, but with the WNBA. And I will see y'all in the next episode.